The more unhinged, the better.
I like that.
Just go fucking crazy.
Have you ever felt like the script you're following doesn't quite fit anymore? Then you're in the right place. I'm Maricella Herrera, and I started Should I Just Quit My Job after walking away from a job I thought defined me. Forget the highlight reels. Here we talk about the messy middle, the doubts, the detours, and the chaos that come with rethinking who we are. Because the truth is, it was never just about quitting a job. It was about questioning everything I thought I knew. Hi, everyone. Welcome to another episode of Should I Just Quit My Job? I'm Maricella Herrera. So happy you're here. As I'm recording this, I must admit I have not been outside from my apartment in the last couple of days. Actually, that's not true. I left my apartment to go downstairs to the gym, but I haven't actually left my building because New York is incredibly cold. So for everyone else who is not a winter person and is struggling with these temperatures, I feel you. I'm right there with you. Hopefully, this conversation that you're going to listen to today is going to give you an extra oomph of energy. It did for me as I was editing it, and I love that. Actually, I love coming back to these podcast recordings, particularly if it's been a while in between when I recorded it and when I'm editing it, because it does give me energy. It does give me excitement. It shows this moment in time when I'm talking to this person and I can see the things that were going in my life and the things that I was thinking about. And this one wasn't that much long ago. It was sometime in probably late October or November that I recorded it. And I think I'm still thinking about very similar things. I'm still thinking about personal branding and business development and what that looks like if I were to really bet on myself and build a business where I am the person providing the services. And that's incredibly relevant because the person I speak to in this interview today is Megan Senese. She's a legal marketing and a business development expert. She spent a long time in the corporate world in law firms working in legal marketing until she left about 3 years ago to start her own business with her then boss, now business partner. Their company's called Stage, and they help lawyers grow their practices through relationship building and strategy. And it was refreshing talking to Megan because I think she has this no nonsense, authentic, this is who I am way of presenting herself that I really appreciate, because it makes me think that there is a world where you can build a business and still be yourself. And maybe I've been noticing this internally for me where I'm thinking, oh, I want to be able to still say all the things I want to say that are in my head without necessarily thinking, oh, I'm going to scare everyone off and they will never buy anything from me. And it reminds me that the truth is you just have to find the right people. You have to find the right people who want you, who want what you have to offer. And that's really it. This is about relationships, and that's about people and personalities and humans, and that's what matters. Anyway, this was a fun conversation. We obviously talked about Megan's journey. She has a really great career story, a really great entrepreneur story, and some really good advice for anyone who is looking to build a brand or build their visibility and their presence online. Let's go to my conversation with Megan, and I'll see you next time. What did you think being an adult would be like when you were a kid?
Oh my gosh, what did I think being an adult was like? Oh, freedom.
Ooh, freedom.
Getting to do whatever you want to do. And I tell that to my kids all the time, actually. I'm like, yes, actually, it's really hard to be a grown up because my son will ask me that, my youngest. Is it hard to be a grown up? I'm like, yeah, it is. But at the same time, I have a lot more control over what I do, what I say, what I eat, what time I go to bed. I'm a grown up. I'm in charge of those things. It's harder when you're a kid. And so we talk about that and who you get to talk to and who you don't want to talk to. You don't there's not as much choices, I
Yeah.
feel, when you're a child. And so yeah, freedom to do whatever the fuck you wanted to do.
I think about what I thought being an adult was like, and then there clearly have been moments in my life where I'm like, yeah, you're absolutely wrong.
Mm.
What I saw my life be like, which granted, I'm in the right where I should be, but
Mm-hmm.
it's not who I thought, which is what actually is my usual question at the beginning, which is, what did you want to be when you were growing up?
I guess it depends on what age. If I was 6, I wanted to be a singer, like a famous pop star singer kind of thing. And then when I was in high school, I wanted to be in marketing. Actually, I wanted to be in public relations. And then I realized the jobs I was being offered when I graduated college were a lot lower than what I was making in my part-time or full-time job. And so that got ditched out the window. And so I went into professional service marketing instead. There was also a hot second where I thought I was going to do pharmaceutical sales because I had worked for 6 years as a certified pharmacy technician at CVS. And so I had all this background. I took a certification. I put myself through school using that. And so I just assumed the next step for me would be in pharmaceutical sales. And I had a couple of connections, just people coming into the store at the time and I'm looking for a job. And they like kind of overpromised what they could do for me, I think, now in hindsight. Or maybe I misunderstood or I was being naive and they were like, oh, no, actually, I don't know anybody there. I don't know. It was very an interesting, like, you said you would help me when I graduated and now I've graduated and why have you been telling me this for like 3 years? And that didn't really pan out. Nobody wanted me for a sales position and they wanted different background. Interviewing for those pharmaceutical sales was the most stressful interviews I've ever had. So now this is 2007 and
Oh, great time.
yeah, it was a good time to be getting a job. So I live on Long Island. I would be asked to come into Queens area, giant hotels where they were doing an open interview, like casting call, basically, and everybody for
Wow.
sales would show up. And you sat in front of a table with 3 men and a chair. And that was the interview that I had. It was a very, very far away, like you were on trial.
Ooh.
And they just drilled me, asking me questions about how I was going to deal with difficult situations, how was I going to handle doctors, how aggressive was I? And I'm like, I've been doing this for 6 years, actually, speaking to doctors on the phone, and I have all this background. And honestly, I feel like they knew that they didn't want me the minute I walked in because it felt like nothing I said was it. I felt I was defending myself the entire time instead of being open and talking about what could I bring. I sweated through my suit. It was just really bad. After that experience, that was it. I was done. I wasn't pursuing that anymore. And I was interviewing with some really big, like Eli Lilly and Pfizer and Merck, big companies that I had gotten myself through. And they're like, yeah, we don't think you have the background because you don't have a biochemistry degree. You're not pre-med. Or I'm like, no, but I have retail experience and marketing experience. And I worked in a pharmacy for 60
Right.
years. So anyway, so that didn't work out for me. So now here we are.
But it's interesting to me because, like you said, you had the experience, and the way you described the feeling of being there, and you walk out and you're sweating, and you feel like you're being prosecuted or
Yes.
something. I know that feeling
Yeah.
from from the time where I was trying to get back into banking, having moved from Mexico, so going to business school, and deep down, this isn't for you, not just because they don't want you, but because your body's also kind of telling you something. There are just some spaces where it's not, I don't know. I realized for me very quickly that's not for me.
Yeah. No,
But
that was the end.
it's hard. Right.
I just wanted a job, to be honest. I'm sure
Right,
if they
same.
hired me, I would have been, then that would be a completely different story. I would have been there, right? And
Yeah, but who knows how that would have turned out.
who knows how that would have turned out. I think maybe a year or two later, there were a decent amount of pharmaceutical representatives that were laid off from their jobs.
Yeah, that's probably. Granted, the time of
A lot of
very
people were
hard.
laid off from their jobs. My career path is pretty linear in a lot of ways, and that's why launching a business felt so like jumping off the
Yeah, I cannot wait to talk about that. But first, I want to know how you went from pharmaceuticals to legal marketing.
So the running joke with legal marketers is that nobody sits around dreaming of being a legal marketer. Recently, I went to a legal marketing conference and people were like, raise your hand if this was your lifelong dream. And no one's raising their hand except for one person. One person.
How would you know what that is?
You don't. But what I think what's even funnier is that so I started in accounting, which is not much better. I started at KPMG in marketing, and I had always had this dream of being a advertising. It was more like advertising and Mad Men, sexy
Mm.
marketing products, and now I'm advertising for auditing. Not exactly the same. And the reason that I even got in to KPMG is because of those US best news rankings. So it's like
Oh, yeah.
top 100 places to launch your career. It was in a magazine, a hard copy magazine, and KPMG was like fourth. And I applied to every single company on that list, 100 companies when I graduated. And after I realized the pharmaceutical sales wasn't going to work out, and all those people who had come in for years telling me that they would help me couldn't. So I sent out paper, like paper resumes, and I applied through Monster for KPMG.
Wow.
A lot of people were like, who did you know? That's a top four accounting firm. Like, it's a big deal to get in
Yeah.
as a college grad. And I was like, I didn't know anybody. I just applied on Monster. People, it's not a hilarious story. I just was not prepared, honestly, to enter. The other funny story of this is that I had a college internship doing marketing at a law firm, and I hated it because it was so fucking boring. And I was like, well, I'm not going to do that. So yeah, I wound up at KPMG, but I had absolutely no idea what I was doing. I probably should have taken more business classes. All of my classes were in communications and writing, and it was corporate communications was my degree, and I just didn't know how to do shit. Honestly, I didn't know how to use Excel. Everything was in fucking Excel. I didn't know how to do anything, and so I stayed there for 4 years because everybody was getting laid off across the entire
Yeah,
country.
terrible.
And also, I think it was 2008, maybe a year in, that we had to re interview for our jobs. They were right sizing the company with support staff that didn't bring in money. And so I was terrified. I had at the time $800 a month of student loans. That was very expensive for me. Still would be now, but I was just like, I just need to pay the student loan. I need to do whatever it takes to keep this job. So we re-interviewed for our jobs, and I stayed there for quite a bit. There was a salary freeze the entire time I was there. And honestly, that salary freeze is what prompted going into legal, because I had heard from other people who were in that professional service marketing that law firms paid a lot more money. And that is it. That is really the only why am I in legal marketing? Because I heard when in 2008 that law firms paid more money, and I had an $800 a month student loan that I had to pay back, and that's why I left. And then you never leave. You never leave.
What do you mean? Why do you never
Oh,
leave?
because you get the golden handcuffs as well, right? Like
Ah, yes,
we're
yes.
we're not making as much as the lawyers, but we make a lot more than anybody else typically
Right.
in marketing. You get paid a lot, and so you stay.
Yeah. So I want to actually take a moment before we go into your story because you mentioned something that I think is really relevant for the times that we are living.
Sure.
Everyone was re-interviewing for their jobs. Like it
Yes.
was this massive time of layoffs, and you were in a role that, like you said, it's a support role, and we see those happening. And I wanna know if you have any advice or any thoughts for anyone who is maybe not in the process, but already nervous in case something would happen. I don't know. What did you do feeling that nervousness? And I know you're very young and
I
very
was so dumb.
inexperienced.
I don't think I knew shit. I don't think I thank God I didn't get laid
Can I
off.
Can I say I love this because I do the same thing where I'm just like, I don't know shit all the time. So I feel like, oh, honesty.
I didn't know shit. Thank God I didn't get laid off. I don't know what, like, I mean, I would have looked for a new job, I'm assuming. But I guess at this point, if you are more experienced and wiser, it would, if you think that's going to happen, which is what I did when we were preparing to launch our business, is buckle up and buckle down, right? Relook at your expenses, cut shit, start saving as much as you can to prepare for whatever that looks like. The other thing I would add now in my much wiser years, because now I have turned 40, and so there's all this amazing
Yeah,
wisdom.
you just get handed the magic wand.
The hell
I know. Yeah.
Here you go. Would be if you're still employed, I guess, and you think you might get fired or might be getting laid off, people aren't seeing it coming, which is the other
Yeah, that's the problem. Too.
terrifying thing that these huge corporate companies keep doing, would be to try to help. And that sounds very like virtue signaling, but if you're adding something to other people's lives, hopefully it will come back to you. And so if you're helping people now while you are still employed and you're still in a positive position financially, emotionally, and you can help other people, hopefully then that will come back to you and people will remember that in your time of need. And so if buckle down, look at your expenses. My fun thing to say is perhaps this is a personal, perhaps you don't need to have a serious radio subscription for your garage. That was something that my husband and I had discovered. We feel we're pretty in touch with our finances. And yet when we went through an exercise of what do we actually need, we realized we were paying for some silly things that snuck in that we weren't just blind to. And so there could be things that you then reinvest into yourself. So
I really appreciate that advice. I actually really appreciate the helping part. And I know you said it could sound like virtual signaling, but to me, helping is another. So I used to hate the word networking. I still hate it. I feel like it's gross.
It's dirty. It's gross. It's nasty. It's for old white guys.
Yes. Yes. It's definitely gross. And someone reframed it to me with just think about it as helping other people.
Yeah.
And that's it, building relationships. And you can build relationships when you actually show up for people and when you actually do something for them, not just connect with them on LinkedIn.
Yeah. I also think the way that networking was described to me when I was younger was that you would walk into this room, or at least this is how I interpreted it. You would walk into a room, everybody was wheeling and dealing, and then you would leave with something of significant value. Therefore, your 1 hour cocktail party reception that you attended was worth the $700 that your firm paid for you to go because you just brought home $1 million of deals, right? And if that doesn't happen for you and you only talked to one person and it was empty and shallow, then I would leave feeling really like a big failure. And I didn't get anything out of it. It was not worth my time. And like, what's wrong with me? And that's how most people go and approach networking. And so a lot of what I have been able to do of late is redefining what networking is, right? Are you talking to people? Are you say, hey, I thought of you, and you're sending them an article? I mean, all of those things actually winds up turning into business development, which really is how my partner and I like to call it relationship development, which then can turn into business. And it's a lot more approachable. All of us have relationships. How do you maintain those? Apply it to your work.
Yeah. I mean, for someone who used to run a network, you have no idea how much I have gone through this thought exercise. But I think the way you're presenting it makes sense. It's about those relationships. And I know someone who starts your own business, that's extremely important. But honestly, as anyone, just as a human, let's start there. Yeah. We're social creatures and we can't survive necessarily on our own. So
Yeah. I feel like I didn't know anybody when we started our business. And I had been working for, I don't know, more than 15 years. And I didn't feel I had this network, right, to pull on. And so I was terrified of having to network all of a sudden and having to go and become a salesperson, particularly since the pharmaceutical companies told me I was not a good salesperson, right?
Oh my God, I hadn't connected those two.
Now I had to go be a salesperson and I had to network and I don't know anybody. And so that a lot of my first year of business, the activity was really driven a lot out of fear and nothing to lose. I'm like, well, I don't have nothing. We had zero clients and $0 in our bank account for our business when we launched. I mean, we put in a little bit of money, but when I say little, I mean little, right? Like bootstrapped consultancy company. And so I really just started talking to people and met with anybody pretty much who would meet with me who had relationship to legal. And that wound up being like 1,000 meetings in the first year. So I did the 12, 11, 10, 11, 12 podcasts my first year of business. And I had almost 1,000 meetings, meet and greets with people virtually because I did 3 to 5 or 6 meetings a day, every single day for the first year of business. I don't recommend that, but I did meet a lot of people.
I am so curious about all of this. I am so curious. And I want to get to that. But I want to jump back a minute so that people follow us. So you started your own business and you're one of my people. You quit.
Oh, yeah. Big quit. It was a
Congratulations.
Thank you. Thank you.
I'd love to tell people congratulations when they quit.
Yeah.
It's a freedom, right?
Yeah.
So tell me a little bit about how you made that decision. You had been in that firm for a while, but you also had been in other, like your career had been this.
Yeah, up. It had been going up.
Yeah, exactly. Trajectory up, going up. And
yep, trajectory going up. Yeah, so I started at KPMG, then I jumped and collected the money, went to McDermott, and law firm is very good, whether you're on the support staff side, on the marketing and business development department, or you're a lawyer, where you have all of these incremental steps up, right? Your title increases, maybe your hourly rate increases if you're on the legal side, as a lawyer, maybe your salary definitely goes up, right? And so that's very attractive. And for a really long time, that was all I needed. I just needed to bring in some money so I can establish myself and have financial independence. And that was good for me for a while. So on the legal side, I was a coordinator, senior coordinator, specialist, senior specialist, manager, senior manager. So you kept up. And I jumped around a couple of times. And legal is really great that every time you jump to a new firm, I'd get 20, 30% more money because I would negotiate the shit out of my salary. That felt like a win. I was doing all the right things. You can also move up in AM law rankings. So the big firms have, if you're a top 10 American lawyer ranked law firm, then you have made it, right? And so for me, even moving up in ranking or down rather, right? The lower the number, the better. So there were so many metrics that I was able to use to validate my success. I'm making more money. I have a better title. I've moved up or down in AmLaw ranking. All of the things, check, 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 check. Got married, got a house, have a dog, started having children, all of the things. 2 kids, I have a house and a dog and a yard. And so this is all fine, all going great. And I think for a lot of people, particularly women, then the pandemic hit. And that was the worst time of my life. And that is even me saying I was employed and I was safe in my house and my husband was employed, but we were a dual working parent house with no childcare. I had 2 kids under the age of 4. It was terrible. And
my God.
They were like, everybody whispers of people being laid off and we don't know what's coming. And so I am a hard worker. My Gallup strength is discipline is the first thing, which is the least exciting one. But it's like I am stubbornly disciplined, which is not always great. But particularly when you work for yourself, I am allowed to get up and go upstairs and take a break. But anyway, sidestep. I was working from like 5 a.m. to like 10 p.m. in like 5-minute intervals because I had a 2-year-old. I don't even think he was 2. He's drinking bottles and he had diapers. It was crazy.
Yeah.
And I had the best year professionally was in 2020. Is really when I started to get to do more content, which all became later foundation for this business, which no idea.
Probably didn't know.
No fucking idea. I had put the firm's first podcast and all of these things of just thinking differently and glowing reviews. Review time comes and they're like, 5 out of 5 on all of your things. Also, here's your 2% raise because we don't know what's going to happen in 2021. And from a business perspective, I understand that. However, I'm a tough New Yorker and I was sobbing hysterical during that review because I was a grief of the year that I had given up to secure myself at that firm. And nobody, of course, was telling me to get up at 5 o'clock in the morning or work at until 10 p.m. They were just saying produce. And I did it. Produce like you don't have kids. I fucking did it. And it was the most intense time ever because I like to work hard. But I really did think I was going to be rewarded. And maybe some people could say I was. You were employed, you were healthy, you were home working from home. I just thought of it differently. And
That wasn't your expectation, and that's
I gave up nights with my kids.
right.
I gave up my mental health. I just gave up so much because I thought it would pay off. And it didn't feel like it had paid off from my perspective at that moment in 2021. And maybe 2 months later, my best coworker quit, goes and gets another job. And then they give me that entire person's job. So I had already felt like I was burning out. And then they said, you're going to cover this person's role for about 3 months.
Can I just say you were rewarded
Yeah.
with more work?
We know you can do it. We know you
Right.
can do it. And I was like, I don't think I can do this. And they were like, well, we're going to give you a lot more money. And they did, right? The firm did a great thing. They gave me $40,000 more. It's not insignificant. However, I
That's a whole
still
other job.
couldn't fucking do two people's jobs.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
And so they were like, let's just try this out for a little bit and see what happens. And we'll revisit in 3 months. And the 3 months comes and she is now my business partner, but my then boss. And I raised this and we're like, this is not sustainable. She's burning out. My work product started to slip because I'm doing too much. And they're like, oh yeah, haha, we weren't asking you. We're telling you. We paid you for it. You're getting paid for it. So that's it. And I was like, got it. And so I start interviewing to leave. Not to leave. I was trying to leave legal, but just anything else. And at this point now, things are brewing. My business partner, Jen, and I know I'm like, hey, I'm trying to get the fuck out of here. She's like, you should.
And she was your boss, right?
She was my boss, right. And at that point, we also had, when we launched the business, there was 3 of us. Now there's just 2 of us. And so we were an entire department. And so basically, I start doing all these interviews with other firms, higher title, more money. And they just keep telling me the same story. Yeah, you'll have to work weekends. Yeah, you'll have to hand out name tags, even though you have this director title. All this shitty stuff. And at that point, that's where I was like, I don't want to do this anymore.
Right.
My entire career focus had been, I'm going to become a CMO. And I was like, I don't want that. I do not want to do that. And that was unsettling because that had been my entire career focus.
What made you say that? Because I understand the feeling, but I think there's a moment where you really go like, yeah.
Definitely interviewing for all these other positions.
For the other roles.
I just assumed when you became a certain title or seniority, you didn't have to do the stupid shit anymore. And I did a decent amount of stupid shit. I was a hands-on manager. It wasn't like I was trying to skirt doing the work, but at some point I thought I would have respect, or they wouldn't talk to me like that anymore. Or there's, in legal marketing in particular, when I tell people the reason I didn't want to become a CMO or the reason I had to leave big law was because I didn't want to be 65 years old editing people's bios. They all go, oh my God, yes. So in legal, the most important thing, I'm using quotes for people who are listening because it's not, is making these tiny edits to a lawyer's bio online, their resume, and it's always done urgently, and it's always this high pressure priority that's like actually doesn't fucking matter at all. And we always get it wrong. I don't know. It's just this contentious thing that doesn't matter. And so for
Mhm.
me, that was this nightmare that I had. And then what wound up happening is that Jen put something on my calendar on a Friday and was like, this is a good meeting, I promise, because I'm freaking out that
Right.
something bad's happening. And so she pitched, imagine if we could do the work we liked to do for the people we like to do it with. And that is really where the idea came. It was from Jen. And let's launch our own thing. Let's be in charge of ourselves and control the work we want to do. And this was, I guess, 2022. Now I'm having a hard time with the years, but we worked in stealth mode for about a year to prepare for this launch. And we'll be in business for 3 years in February of
Wow.
2026. And so that's where my family and I went through the exercise of saving our money and like
Mhm.
preparing for this. We couldn't get clients because we still worked for the firm. Can't.
I was going to ask if you were already if you stayed working there while you were planning the whole thing.
We worked nights, weekends in terms of who are we, what's our messaging,
Right, right, right.
marketing, branding, that type of thing.
The foundation of it,
Yeah, getting things set up, but we couldn't talk to anybody. We
of
couldn't
course.
get money in the door. It would be really hard to contact other lawyers while you're still employed by
Right.
this as a firm.
Exactly.
And so it was January when we gave notice, and it was three of us. We were an entire department, and we all gave notice together on the same day at the same time that three of us were leaving to go form a business. And I had been there the least amount of time, which was 6 years. Jen had been there for 19, and our other
Wow.
partner had been there for 16. And they were not pleased. The firm was not happy. And so we had about 1 week to clean up our shit essentially and get out. And we launched 2 weeks later. And so it was terrifying, and it's taken, I don't want to say it's all undone, but it's taken a long time to undo a lot of the corporate toxicity, I guess. And now here we are. Here we are.
Can you give me an example of what you mean with the corporate toxicity? What has been something that you've been trying to leave behind that you still kind of wrestle with?
Yeah, the what's considered professional
Oh,
is something I'm still undoing. Proving your worth by how much you produce at every minute is something that I am still undoing.
yeah.
Particularly now that as a consultant I'm trying to get away with people paying me by the hour, but that's a whole new ball game for me. I was always salaried. And now if I don't work, you don't get paid, right? Obviously, you start to feel that time pressure in a way that I hadn't felt it before, and has made me
Hmm.
realize and appreciate my poor lawyer clients who are billing in these
Right.
tiny 6 minute intervals, right? So there's definitely newfound appreciation for that. Just undoing a lot of my thinking in terms of rest
Mm.
and how I show up and the things that I share on LinkedIn. And I'm still undoing.
When you say the things that you share on LinkedIn, do you mean that you're being more open, more you, more
Yeah.
that balance?
Yeah. So the year before we launched, I started to kick up my visibility on LinkedIn, but still within the constraints within the firm because I was still
Right.
employed there. And law firms typically, most corporations are typically on the more just conservative side,
Yeah.
just kind of vanilla. You don't say anything about anything. I spent a lot of time talking about my LinkedIn profile and presence because it has awarded me with a lot of opportunities, and it has awarded me with learning and meeting new people. There's just no way I would be able to meet the amount of people if it hadn't been for LinkedIn. With that being said, I also would not have met people who were aligned with me if I didn't start to peel back some of the
Mm.
corporate armor and start to really say things. And that's what I started to do. I started to be more vocal and mostly sharing negative experiences, unfortunately, that had happened to me or that I had experienced as a professional woman working in a corporate setting. And the intent was to share so that other people didn't feel so alone. And my intent of sharing those stories was not always to shit on big law. There's plenty of shitting happening, but to also have a voice for those who felt they were silenced and couldn't speak up because they're still employed
Yeah.
by those firms and for whatever reason have to stay there, right? I don't have to do that anymore. I work for myself. And the further away I get from that quit date, the more vocal I am about a lot of things.
That makes sense. And I think that's a very important reason for doing things. That's why I started this thing,
Yeah.
just to talk about things that people may think, but they can't say.
Right? Yeah.
You weren't thinking of starting your own business, though.
No.
If Jen hadn't said, let's do this, would you have?
Never. No.
No?
No. Never. I never ever thought about that ever. And the funny thing is that so I was interviewing for a legal tech company in a marketing role. It was like sort of sales, but not really. And I had made it like the third round. I was really excited. And I had put some other salary number down and even lower than what I was making, which I thought was okay, still seems reasonable. And what they offered me was even half of that. And so I was like, that's fine, I'll take it. It was probably 75% of what I had asked for, like lower. And they were like, yeah, we really don't think you're going to stay here. The money is
With
not
that money, yeah.
right. And what's really funny is that they passed, and then 5-6 months later, I quit for $0. Right? So I always come back to that. It's this funny story of they were like, we don't think that you're going to be okay with 75% less of what you're making. And I'm like, no, I swear I'll be fine. And then 5-6 months later, I quit for basically zero because we had no clients.
Well, 0% of what you're making and 100% of your time.
Yeah, right. Mm-hmm.
So there's a few things that you said that I wrote down that hit me. One was the grief of the year you had given up during COVID.
Yeah.
And I think that way you phrased it was so powerful because I know I talk about grief when I left and how that happened. But we are dealing with grief of other things that we are leaving on the table or like removing from ourselves that we don't see it at the time. We see it later.
Yeah. Yeah.
Because you had gone through that, do you think you had any grief after leaving or during that first year? You were just like, I'm ready.
I was ready. And
yeah, you went through it.
Jen and I just saw each other. She lives on the West Coast, so we don't get to see each other physically in person that much on video and stuff. But so we just saw each other last week, and we always are talking about, I can't believe it's going to be 3 years. So wild how fast time goes, how slow it also has felt. It feels like we've been doing this forever. But then when I tell people it's only been 2.5 years, they're like, oh, it's not that long, right? So it depends on how you're viewing it. But our whole story is there's no way I would have been ready any earlier had she asked or had come up with this idea. Because she sometimes said, well, I was always thinking about maybe starting something. I just didn't know what it was. And maybe it would come up maybe 5 years ago and then it went away and did all these thoughts. And I'm like, you asked me 5 years ago prior to when she asked, but there's no way I wouldn't have been ready. And so by the time she asked, it was a Friday, I was like, yes, I'm in. She was like, well, maybe you want to think about it. Take the weekend and think about it. I'm like, no, I'm good. Let's do this. The timing just worked out, and that's how things go sometimes. It's how things go.
Yeah, well, you had gone through a lot of the process yourself. If you were interviewing, if you were doing, so you were ready.
I was ready.
That's really cool that you ended up working with someone that you were working with. To me, my dream, and I still say it, is I would like to grab my former Elevate people and go work together with them somehow.
Yeah.
Someday.
It's still a tricky transition, right? We went from she was boss and I was employee to now we're 50-50. Well, there was 3 of us and now there's 2 of us, so 50-50 business partner. We were always pretty flat in terms of how we approached stuff before we launched the business, but just even a slight shift of being like, she's not my boss anymore. And like,
Yeah.
I'm the boss now, right? We're both bosses. And what does that look like? And how much am I going to push back on something where in the past I would not have? I would
Yeah.
push back a little bit. I mean, I'm not a shrinking violet, but I would have pushed back. And then if boss after a couple of times says no, then you retreat,
Yeah.
right? Whereas now I'm like, I don't have to retreat anymore, technically. All right, and so what does that look like? Has been a new experience for the both of us. And what thing are you going to be really aggressively pushing where you fundamentally disagree with? And what thing is not really worth it? What battles are you fighting, right? And so that's an adjustment. That's an adjustment.
Yeah, that makes sense. And I also think you probably another big adjustment considering you started as three and then ended up as two.
Yeah. So after the first year, our other partner decided to go back in house for a full time salary because the first year of startup, it was like,
Hmm.
luckily we made money. It just wasn't
Oh,
the same
great.
amount of money
Mhm.
that we were used to. And sales can be lumpy, right? Up and down. And that's hard for some people to get used to. And it requires your entire family to revisit how you're spending and what does your life look like and what are you willing to sacrifice or not sacrifice. And you get to really understand people's motivations and feelings around salary and money and worth and investments and spending. It sounds great to go work with your colleagues, but there's a lot of shit that comes with it too. A lot of
Oh yeah.
shit that comes with it. And you have to, from my perspective, really know who you are and how you're showing up in those moments that are tense that impacts
Mm.
not just you but your whole fucking family as it comes to the
Yeah.
business, right? It's a lot. It can be really intimate, particularly for people who are saying it's all business, and that was never our intention. We wanted it to be close, and how close is for the company to decide, right?
Right.
So yeah, that was a big transition too. It's not just like smooth sailing, launched a company and off into the sunset we went. There's going to be chop, but how you come through that chop is
Yeah. I want to understand what was going through your head as you were doing 11 podcasts and 1,000 meet and greets. Because I have a theory, but I want to hear from you.
I don't know if I actually was thinking that much. The podcast, I saw it as a way to get the message out and raise visibility. So I think there was a lot of marketing, profile, branding awareness that I was obsessed with, which I still kind of am. Right? I love the doing the marketing business development. That is my
I
job.
mean, right.
I'm like, if I could just do that full time, I love that part. And so I think there's that piece. I was thrilled to have anybody who wanted to talk to me. So there was that, right? Getting to share my message. The 1,000 meet and greets snowballed out of its out of control. We looked at, okay, we launched, and then what? We had nothing to do. We had nothing to do. And so it took to LinkedIn, started sending notes to people. I spent that year before kind of building it up because I was terrified that when we became a vendor, that no one would want to talk to me and that I was going to then turn into this sleazy salesperson who was trying to
Mm.
sell people shit. And that no, I don't really know how to do this, even though my entire career had been telling lawyers how to build their book. And I had grown up thinking that it was really a big, bad, scary business world out there because that is the messaging that I had got. We were not allowed to talk to our lawyers' clients, and we didn't do business development in that way. It was everything was behind the scenes in a law firm setting. So there's definitely these moments where I'm like, well, maybe I actually don't know business development because I have these very senior lawyers who are millionaires telling me, no, 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 you can't just reach out to a client and say, hey, how are you? What's going on? No, it's got to be much more sophisticated and substantial and value add and legal expertise has to be in every message. And I would spend the time, oh, they must know. And I would spend all this time drafting up shit for them to send. And there was this moment of me being like, well, I don't have anything to say right now because I just launched, other than like, do you want to meet with me? I guess. I don't know. And I started being more vocal and authentic on LinkedIn. And so I started sending people notes like, hey, I was thinking of you. Hey, I'd love to learn more about you, loved your LinkedIn content. Maybe we should set up a meet and greet. And people started saying yes, like 100% acceptance rate. And so that was like
Wow.
the big click for me, is that actually maybe that worked, the substantive, very substantial legal expertise. Maybe that worked for them. It didn't really seem like it was working all the time, but maybe it worked for them. That doesn't work for me. And I need to go to market by being a real person and being curious. And I'm just going to ask people like, "Hey, what's up? You want to chat?" And people were like, "Okay." And that was literally the end of it. And that is now, that really has then shifted and shaped how I provide business development support for lawyers who hire me now, which is, you don't have to do, there's a time and place for substantive legal expertise. It doesn't have to always live on LinkedIn, and it doesn't have to live in every single interaction that you have with people. You can just reach out and be like, "What you wrote was cool, and I want to be friends." The end.
I love it.
And that's how 1,000 meetings came to be. Now I have to gate a little bit more, but that's how it happened. Because I was like, who am I to say no to a meeting? I'm gonna fucking say yes to everything.
Yeah.
But what's your theory? I'd love to hear.
Well, so my theory
Yeah.
is comes from I've been thinking a lot about busyness because I feel so busy all the time.
Yeah.
And I've been working on some big personal projects.
Yeah.
Not anything business. I just ran Chicago Marathon.
Oh, congratulations.
Thank you. And so I kept being like, I feel like I'm dropping the ball everywhere because I'm also doing all these things. But then reading some articles and reading some books and talking to people, I'm realizing that a lot of doing a lot comes from the fact that I don't necessarily know what to do.
Yeah.
And so I'm just doing because that's better than
Nothing.
not. And so I thought that it might be somewhere along those lines of sometimes you're either scared of, am I doing the right thing? So you just go and do, or you don't know what to choose, which is the case for me. So I just keep doing to keep my options open. And so I was wondering if it had something to do with that
Yeah.
kind of
I
mentality.
didn't know what to do. I didn't
Right.
know what to do. And I was, at least, I'm not going to just get into my office and sit
Right.
at my desk. At least I have 5 meetings scheduled for today. Feels like a good day.
Feels productive, right?
Feels productive. The more meetings, the better, right? Look at me. I'm doing,
That's how we've been conditioned to think, too.
I'm doing great. Yeah. So
However, in the sense of business development, I actually do think the more meetings, the better, probably.
I think in hindsight, there's probably some I didn't need to meet with, but you don't really know where things are going to hit. You don't know who's thinking of you. I mean, a good business developer would be like, well, should really prioritize and put them in waves, and there's all of this stuff, and that's true. However, the story I love to tell is that there was a meet and greet I had probably 2.5 years ago, very, very beginning. They wanted me to sell something that they had to the firms that I must have relationships with. And I was like, I don't fucking have relationships with anybody right now. Like, no. And the thing they wanted me to sell would have, in their words, totally cannibalized my brand new business that I just launched.
Yeah, great.
And I was like, I was actually really mad about this meeting. In that instance, I was really fucking pissed. And I was, why would you even reach out to me? What? Pissed. So I didn't do any of the things that a good business developer would tell you. I didn't follow up. I don't think I was particularly nice. I just ignored that meeting happened and was like, pissed about it. Until literally like 2.5 years later, that person referred me to a CMO of a law firm, and now I am coaching 6 of their lawyers. So you just don't know, right? To me, that was a waste of time, and well, how stupid was that? And da da da. Now I think, having the experience, I probably, if that instance came up again where somebody wants me to sell something, I'm more open to it. Well, what does this look like? And what is it that you're actually asking me? And how do you see my business fitting in or not fitting in, right? There's a lot more questions and curiosity that I have now versus then. So you just don't know.
You just don't know.
1,000 meetings is a lot. I don't recommend that.
It's a lot. I'm very impressed.
Yeah.
As we're talking about business development and this, I want to know, what is your top advice, or what advice would you give to someone who's starting their own thing, particularly where they have to be I don't like saying the product, but you are the service, you are providing the services.
Yeah. So maybe it was a few weeks ago, somebody asked me, what's your end game with your business?
Oh,
What's your end game? What are you trying to do here? Are you trying to sell? I'm like, my business isn't worth anything without me and Jen in it right now, at least. So for someone who's just starting out, I used words like obsessed. I think you need to be obsessed with your whatever it is that you're doing. You have to be obsessed. Hopefully in a good way, not in a bad way, but a little obsessed. I think about the business all the time. What else can I be doing? But I also try to think about it from what, like, when I say what else can I be doing, I'm not looking outward, I'm looking inward. And so, what I mean by that is you're going to get hung up on what other people say. Right now, I'm in a lot of messaging where, like, you should be scaling. You're 3 years in, you need to scale and you need to do this and do that. And your podcast should be doing different things and you should be, you should. And if you are the sole owner or you're the decision maker, this is like such dumb, like such cliche, but I really do think do it different. Trust your gut. There's so much content that I've put out that when I had asked people, like, what do you think? Do you think I should write this? They were like, no. And those posts that have done the best, the ones that people said you shouldn't do it, and they did it anyway. I think the way to stand out is to do it differently. And I don't know what that looks like for each person's business, but the more that we are all going to be using AI tools and everybody's using ChatGPT, particularly on LinkedIn, so everyone's content sounds the same. I just keep leaning into how much more unhinged can I become? And this is the reason though, because someone was copying my content. It seemed very. Has that happened to you?
you're not, no, but I've heard of several people. It hasn't happened to me because I'm not on LinkedIn that much. But
Yeah. So it felt it was close enough that I'm like, didn't I just write that yesterday? And they're like in the same space, they're doing the same things. Maybe I didn't have original thought enough, and that's why it was sounded the same. Maybe they saw it and were influenced by it and then wrote about it, but it just felt like I was being copied by the same couple of people pretty consistently. This was probably about a year ago, and then I just had this like, I'm gonna post something what I thought was wild and unhinged, and was laughing my ass off posting it, being like, good luck trying to copy that shit because that's fucking crazy. And I posted it and it did well, right? And so then that's kind of redirected. How are you going to market that's going to stand out? It doesn't have to be wild and obscene every time, but like, how are you going to go to market that's different? How are you going to talk to people that's different? How are you going to show people you care when everything is just like a systematized approach? So that would be my advice.
Good
The more
advice.
unhinged, the better.
I like that.
Just go fucking crazy.
I like that. Honestly, you're right. Everything sounds very similar.
Yeah.
Like, one of the reasons I hate LinkedIn is because of that.
Yeah.
And I probably shouldn't hate LinkedIn because I know it is where a lot of business development happens. But to me, the anxiety it produces, both to, I don't know if it's just my mentality of comparison or it's just, I just don't deal well with social media. I just don't.
Yeah.
I just
Well,
don't.
and one of the things that I tell my more introverted or hesitant lawyers is that you don't always have to post to be on LinkedIn, right? There are lots of people who are lurkers who are in the background, but so many opportunities of somebody who got connected to someone and then says, "Oh, Maricella and Megan should meet," right?
Yeah.
All of those things happen offline or in the messaging, and then you take the messaging and you go into email. And so the point of using LinkedIn is not to become a social influencer or to become a thought leader, sure, but for me it's to try to build a community around what I'm offering and find other people who are aligned with me and that I'm aligned with, and then talk to them privately, right? And so that's how I approach it. Post the content, get some engagement, build a community in the comments, move the comments into a private message, start to build a relationship, and then take it off LinkedIn, which LinkedIn doesn't want you to do, and have real life communication and relationships with people. And that's the start. That's a great way to get in front of people pretty quickly.
Yeah, that makes sense. That's a better way of thinking about it. I get very overwhelmed because everyone, and it is the shoulds. It's the shoulds because everyone is like, you should be posting all these things. You should be talking about this other thing you're doing. You should be posting the podcast on everywhere, which I do, but also not a lot because I love doing this. It's not the rest of the things that I love.
Yeah. Well, and that can be your business development approach too. It's like hone in on the things you like to do and fuck everything else.
I like it. I think more people need to embrace your
Don't listen to everybody else. Don't listen to them. If they're going to tell you take your podcast on the golf course. No, you're not going to do that.
True. Tell me about your podcast. How has it been to be doing it? Because
it'll be almost a year in January.
Yeah.
Our podcast is called So Much to Say, a legal podcast for people.
It's very good.
Thank you.
Even for non-lawyers.
Yeah, thank you. We try to have a couple of different themes. Mostly it's focused on the humanity within the legal industry. But we also focus on just being a corporate professional. And there's also just like general, like if you're a person, if you're a person, then you should like it. We've had some really nice guests on. We toe the line a little bit with talking a little bit about unlearning silence. We had something on the...
Oh, was Elaine on?
We had Elaine on.
I love her.
And we also had the Chief Deputy Attorney General for the state of Arizona on, which I thought was...
That's cool.
So exciting about how people can make an impact in their communities if they're feeling like their communities may be out of control. And so how you as a civilian can make an impact for positivity. We have quite a few leaders who are high-ranking lawyers talking about how they're making an impact at their firms and in a way that is talking about their pro bono efforts. We've had a psychologist on about why high-achieving women think they're failing, but they're not actually. And so it's been really lots of different topics. It's been really fun. The best part of our job is that we get to do the podcast, and we're an independent podcast, which means we pay for it ourselves. And so, we hope people continue to listen. We promote it, and I promote the shit out of it everywhere, right? As a marketer should. So thanks for allowing us to plug it.
No, of course. Did you start the podcast as a way for business development? Was that the angle?
Yeah. It's a good way to have lead generation. So there's a couple of ways as to why you would have a podcast. Is it brand and visibility? Yes. Anything for Jenna and my name to be tagged and associated together because we're separate doing things contributing to the Stage brand. Having an excuse to reach out. Why would I ever get to talk to the chief attorney deputy general of the state of Arizona? Never. He's so nice, right? Literally, I just was like, hey, like your LinkedIn stuff, would you come on my podcast? And he said, sure. That was it.
Yeah.
That was it.
Great.
We had the CFO of the #1 ranking law firm in the entire country come on. Same thing. Hey, would love to have you on my podcast. Would you like to do it? And he was like, okay. That was it. Nope.
On LinkedIn?
Yeah.
Maybe I should be on LinkedIn more. You're making a case.
It has been surprisingly easier than I thought it was going to be. Now, granted, people are looking at my stuff, and then I'm validating who I am and all the things and showing them proof of the episodes, and people are agreeing. But we are focused on trying to be some good right now in a time where everything feels like it's on fire, and some humanity, and showing there are people who care, even if they're in big law and in corporate, and the things that you can do that can make an impact on people's lives, because that's what it's about. It's about the people. So how do you show that?
I love it. This has been a lot of fun. I have one last question, which I always ask. I always ask my guests to go back to a time, and I always choose depending on what we talked about. Let's say that moment where you're trying to do 2 jobs at the same time.
Yeah.
If you could go back and talk to yourself at that point, what would you tell yourself?
Wow, that's a good one. Hold on. Just hold on. It'll be over soon. It'll be over soon. Yeah, hold on. It'll be over soon. Yeah.
I like that. Well, thank you.
Thanks for having me.
So fun.
Yeah.
So fun. I'm glad we finally made this happen.
Yeah, me too.
Me too. That's it for today. Thanks for listening. If you like this episode, hit follow or subscribe so you don't miss the next one. And if it made you think, feel something or yell "same" out loud, leave a quick rating or review. It really helps. If you didn't like it, just pretend this never happened. You can also subscribe on Substack for updates and extras. I'd love to hear from you. Come say hi on Instagram at quitmyjobpod or email me at quitmyjobpod@gmail.com. See you next time.